we're going to be talking about some of these free agents the Bengals could possibly, end up signing. And I know everybody is talking about Teron Armstead, the left tackle for the New Orleans Saints. Obviously he is a marquee free agent on PFF's top 100 big board of free agents in the 2022, free agency class or whatever you want to call it. He's ranked number 2, only behind Devontae Adams. Teron Armstead is one of the best left tackles in the NFL, but he has yet to play 16 games in any season of his career. To me, that's kind of alarming and concerning, especially for a team like us who, we are willing to pay the big bucks, I think, for offensive linemen in this offseason, but you don't want to pay big bucks to somebody who, is injury prone. You just do not want to do that at all. So there's lots of people, offensive linemen, it seems like every single day there's a new offensive lineman Bengal fans want us to get. And if you're just not tuning in, I'm going to be doing the Jamar Chase autograph giveaway a little bit later on. We're going to be kind of talking about, some free agent targets the Bengals should, look at in the offseason. Free agency just starts in, I guess less than 2 weeks now, since today's the 3rd, 13 days away. So Teron Armstead is obviously, left tackle everybody's talking about. If you have anybody you're really wanting the Bengals to get, comment below. I want to hear your thoughts and comments, everything like that. There's a lot of offensive linemen I like, and there's one in particular, I want to kind of save him for last, that nobody is talking about, and I do not get it at all. It makes zero sense. So obviously, when you look at left guards, Brandon Sharif, however you want to say it, I always mess up saying his name. He's one of the premier guards, one of the best guards, one of the better offensive linemen in the NFL, and it's looking like there's a decent chance that he might not re-sign with Washington. If you're Cincinnati, you have to get all over that. You have to try to sign him and bring him to Cincinnati. He would be an instant upgrade over Quentin Spain, and he would instantly become our best offensive lineman. And Quentin Spain is a good left guard. In my opinion, I think Quentin Spain is our best lineman right now. But, he's a free agent, and we don't know if we're going to end up re-signing him or not. Somebody else at left guard is Connor Williams. Everybody wanted Connor Williams in the draft, and it just seemed like it was a year or two ago. But it's already been 4 years. It's kind of crazy how, time flies and everything. Connor Williams is good. I think his price range would probably be around $6 or $7 million. But his penalties past season for Dallas was a major, major, major issue. I think he had like 15 penalties or something like absurd and insane. But he would be nice. But I don't know if he's an upgrade over Quentin Spain. I really don't. I would feel, in my opinion, I think it'd be kind of just better off to sign Spain for like 8 than Connor Williams for 6 or 7. I know Connor Williams is far much younger than Quentin Spain, but I feel like Quentin Spain, you know what you're going to get in Quentin Spain. He's going to have solid play, be our best offensive lineman until we sign some of these other guys. Connor Williams is, I'm not going to say he's a project, but he's one of those guys where you think he can be good, but you don't know his full potential. If he has his potential and if he, plays really good, he can be better than Spain. But as of right now, I don't think we've seen enough of Connor Williams being good in Dallas to say he should, be signed over Quentin Spain. Going to centers here. Ben Jones, the center of Tennessee Titans, one of the most underrated offensive linemen, in my opinion. I think as we head into free agency, I think he has to be somebody that we look at. And don't be surprised if Trey Hopkins is not cut until after we sign all of our big free agents. Because think of it this way. It's kind of sounds weird. It would be risky to cut Trey Hopkins and miss out on Ryan Jensen or Ben Jones. So if you cut Trey Hopkins, and if you miss out on Jones and Jensen, if you cut Hopkins, and if you miss out on Jensen and Ben Jones, now you're screwed. So I feel like, should we cut Trey Hopkins? I would say probably, but we cannot do that until we sign our other center if we're going to upgrade center and have a replacement for Trey Hopkins. But Ben Jones is one, and Jensen is another one. And if you have heard it the other day, Patman Jones, former Bengal, obviously, was on the Believe in, Bengal. I think that's the podcast name of it. Him and Solomon Wilcox. Patman Jones was talking about how he heard from somebody that the Bengals are expected to sign Ryan Jensen to a 3-year contract worth $39 million. I don't know how much truth that there is to it, in my opinion. Pat Man is not the most, trustworthy person, just in my opinion. I don't know how much there is, truth to that. I would hope it would be true. But I will say with Ryan Jensen, there is going to be a bidding war for Ryan Jensen. And especially with Ali Marpet, with him retiring, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to be dead set on re-signing Ryan Jensen since they lost Marpet due to retirement last week. So don't be surprised if, Jensen, who I've seen anywhere from like 10, 13, maybe gets like even 15 if a team is that much willing to sign him. But I feel like at that point, at least getting 15, just get Ben Jones for like half that price. I think that would be pretty good for Cincinnati. So Ben Jones and Jensen are some of the censors here. Right guard, Laken Tomlinson, has been with the 49ers past several seasons. He's very, very good. We need right guard. And it's so weird because everybody talks about Teron Armstead. Okay, he would be a nice addition to this Bengals offensive line. But like outsiders and people who aren't Bengal fans don't realize like tackle isn't great for us by any means. But our main issue is the interior offensive line, like left guard, center, and right guard. And we need an instant starter on right guard. We need to upgrade at right guard bad. Tomlinson could be good. James Daniels could be good. We missed him. We did not end up drafting him several years ago. Instead, we took Billy freaking Price, which looking back, that was a horrible, horrible pick. I was so mad at that pick. I thought it was a reach. And looking back, it still is a reach. But at least we're able to trade Billy Price to get B.J. Hill out of it. Hill was really, really great for us this past season. And also somebody at right guard is Austin Corbett, the right guard who has been with the Rams the past several years. He's somebody to keep an eye on too. Very underrated. I would expect him to maybe sign for like 10 to 12, something like that. Right tackle, in my opinion, I don't think there's anybody like that stands out compared to like a Jensen or some of these other people. In my opinion, if we sign Teron Armstead, expect Jonah Williams to move the right tackle. And if we don't sign Teron Armstead and if we do not sign a left tackle in free agency, I wouldn't be surprised if Williams is the left tackle, Jonah Williams is left tackle, and Riley Reef is right tackle. I don't think it's I don't know. I wouldn't be upset if Riley Reef were to came back on like a 1-year deal at right tackle, but I don't know. It's kind of hard for me to say that Reef would come back, especially considering as you look at the last month of the regular season, he was expected to miss 3 or 4 weeks, and he missed all the regular season and all the playoffs, obviously. And I feel like if we had him, I honestly think we might have won the Super Bowl. But it's just so crazy that we were in the Super Bowl this year. But with Reef, I don't know. It's very interesting. Like, I don't think people are talking about him enough because if we don't sign a left tackle, I think there's a possible chance that he comes back and is our right tackle. Because if we don't sign a left tackle, Jonah Williams is staying there at left, more than likely. Right tackle, it's so up in the air. That's the one thing to me, in my opinion. Look at our, offensive line, left tackle, left guard, center, right guard, right tackle. Right tackle is kind of one up in the air. Will Reef be a free agent? Yeah, he's a free agent. And if he is, would you resign him? Kind of like I just said, if we don't sign a left tackle, I would be willing to resign. I would be willing to resign Riley Reef. But if we sign like Teron Armstead or something like that, I don't think we will. Jonah Williams would probably move to right tackle. If we sign Ryan Jensen, then we should trade for Tunzel from the Texans. Holy crap. Like, that would be insane. Like, you go from top 3, you make a case the worst offensive line in the NFL to, you have Tunzel, you have Jensen. And honestly, like, if we do some other, like, cap situations, if we cut some other people, we could still have a decent amount of money. Like, cutting, Trey Waynes saves $10 million. Cutting Trey Hopkins saves $5 million. And if you sign Jensen, you're obviously going to cut Trey Hopkins more than likely. So that would be crazy. So I kind of mentioned some of those people that I'm very intrigued by for the Bengals to possibly sign in free agency. But there's one person I did not mention who has not been talked about at all. I don't understand this. He has been a left guard for the Jacksonville Jaguars for the past several years. It's Andrew Norwell. Andrew Norwell played at Ohio State. Andrew Norwell is from Cincinnati. Why are people not talking about Andrew Norwell possibly coming to Cincinnati and play for the Cincinnati Bengals? I don't get this at all. I saw a tweet last week. He was from Cincinnati, and I thought that was kind of interesting. That's already kind of strange that people aren't talking about that. But then the fact that he played at Ohio State, I mean, obviously, the Bengals love Ohio State players. They've drafted Ohio State players more than anybody else. And look at, our team is full of Ohio State players. Burrow played there early on in his college career. Hubbard, Eli Apple, Von Bell. I mean, we've had so many Ohio State players throughout the years. And the fact that he's from Cincinnati is very strange to me. And he would be a major upgrade over Quentin Spain and instantly become our best offensive lineman and be a very, very nice signing. He's not going to be as expensive as Trent Armstead or Brendan Sharif, or however you say his name. Andrew Norwell to Cincinnati makes a lot of sense. People aren't talking about it at all for whatever reason. But don't be surprised if we maybe hear some, chatters and rumors within these next couple of days as we get closer to free agency. Maybe Bengals and Andrew Norwell kind of has some mutual interest. That's something I think, in my opinion, I'm surprised that hasn't really been talked about enough. I mean, nobody's shutting up about Teron Armstead. But left tackle is not our major issue. It's in the interior offensive line. And we have a guy from Cincinnati and Ohio State that we could possibly sign that's not being talked about. Kind of strange, in my opinion. So that was, kind of a list. There's probably about, 10, 12 offensive linemen. And I actually have a couple of defensive players. Literally 2 defensive players, and that's it. And these guys, honestly, they're not nearly as a high-profile names as some of these offensive linemen that I already mentioned. But one is Ryan Kerrigan. Ryan Kerrigan's towards the end of his career, and I wouldn't even be surprised if he ended up retiring this offseason. But Ryan Kerrigan, he's been very, very good until like the past year or two. This past season, he was with the Philadelphia Eagles, but his whole career up to that point, I believe, he was with Washington. And with Washington, the year prior to him being with the Eagles, he had at least, I think, 5 sacks every single season with Washington. Been very productive. He has over 80 sacks for his career, I believe. Been very efficient defensive player for the past decade. And something interesting with Ryan Kerrigan, you look where he played at in college, he played at Purdue. And to me, it's very interesting when you look at like connections throughout coaching and everything like that. Like, it's so interesting. Like, if there's a new head coach and if he's coached a player before, more than likely, he might bring him on because they have a, connection. They already have chemistry. I mean, look at Mike Thomas and Zach Taylor. Look at Lou Anarumo. I always mess his name up. I don't know how. And like B.W. Webb and Kerry Wynn and Eli Apple and those type of guys. But when Ryan Kerrigan played in college, he played at Purdue University. And at that time, Lou Anarumo was also on the Purdue coaching staff. I kind of said this last year, as a couple of days after I said that, there was reports saying that the Bengals had to, I believe, a workout with Ryan Kerrigan. So it's kind of interesting. I mean, they've already, interested in him with the past year or so. There's already a connection with him and our defense coordinator. So I would not be surprised, and maybe we sign him to like a short 1-year contract where it's like super, super cheap, something like that. But he's not going to be like a guy who's going to have a big impact, kind of just like an extra body at the edge position, something like that. Kind of like a guy like Mike Daniels, maybe have him on like the practice squad. But if he needs to get called up, play in the game on the active roster, he can come in, play pretty well. I mean, obviously we saw this past season. And Mike Daniels when we played against the Browns in the season finale. And one other player, this is very interesting. I was looking, like I said, I really like connections with coaches and players. And when you look at our, secondary coach, Livingston, he used to coach at Vanderbilt years ago. And I feel like we could use a little more help at corner. Like, obviously, we don't need to sign like J.C. Jackson or somebody like that. We don't need a high-profile corner to sign in free agency. But I feel like somebody who can kind of add more depth and more experience at corner is Casey Hayward. Casey Hayward played at Vanderbilt while Livingston was on the coaching staff. Our secondary coach, Livingston, was on the coaching staff at Vanderbilt while Casey Hayward was on there as well. That's also kind of something to look at as well. I mean, this might not be nothing, but to me, I do think it's kind of interesting that there is a connection there. So, who knows? That's kind of, the players I'm kind of looking at for free agency.